The changing colours of the leaves means only one thing. It's autumn in Sherwood Forest. Autumn's a time of fruits and seeds. The plant's product of the year. So it's an important time. Hedgerows and woodland paths might look a bit scruffy, a bit untidy. But this is a vital time for plants. The seeds ensuring there's another generation to come. And when it's windy, as it is today, seeds can be blown for miles. Clever how plants have learnt to spread. And when you tend to think of autumn being the end of the year, and indeed of life for a lot of plants, for plants like annuals, and for a lot of insects, it's also a period of birth for the next generation. (2021) has been a year of extremes, weather-wise, really, and conditions. Beautiful now, but it is very, very dry everywhere, and the forest floor is incredibly dry. It was dry in the spring, after the usual cool and eventually late spring, which was dry. I mean, in April, everywhere looked like this, just dead grass. You'd have thought you'd have been having a midsummer drought. Then it went very wet, sort of dry, and it went very wet again. And now it's been very dry for a number of weeks, at least here in Nottinghamshire. We're very lucky with the weather in Nottinghamshire and the rain. We tend not to get extremes of wet weather or snowy weather. It's well protected geographically, protected from a lot of the rain in the west by the Pennines, and then stuff from the east by the Lincolnshire Wolds, and anything from the north by the Yorkshire Moors. But it is very dry, and despite the warm temperatures, I mean, the temperature in the sun is easy into the 70s. I've looked under a few logs and the ants are already well below the surface. And I have noticed this recently at other sites. But that's probably because of the dryness. There's a few workers knocking around on the surface, but it's almost as if they've shut up shop early. But if it's dry, then they will go further down into the soil where conditions are a bit more humid and conducive to their needs. But for a species like Formica fusca, which is the large, or one of the two large black wood ants that we have in Nottinghamshire, they do like very dry conditions. That's why they'll nest in old stumps. But even those have done a runner. Still, it's nice to be out in, even if the weather isn't suitable for everything. I can handle this. There's a big old oak, and part of it is still alive. It's amazing how these trees do stay alive. When you look at it now, it's 90% dead. But these branches that are coming out from the right side of the trunk are all right. Now reached the top path at Clipstone Old Quarter. And if you follow this path, you can work your way back to Warsop, which Dillis and I did several times. Some ungodly early hour of the morning. But it's interesting. We're on the 23rd of September now, and you look at the trees, and there's no indication of these trees that we're in late September. As I said before, 30, 40, 50 years ago, by now these trees would have been yellow. Sweet chestnuts would be on the floor, and the leaves would be a golden yellow, and a lot of these leaves would be off. That's how early winter used to start, or autumn. It's very different now. Despite being windy, this is the peaceful end of Sherwood Forest. If you know your sections of Sherwood Forest, this is C3. And C1, 2 and 3 are usually free of people. It seems that this spider doesn't just specialise in flies. Seems to be rather fond of silver birch seeds. But it's quite interesting this. Something's either happened to this spider or it's moved on. And I think something's happened to it, and I'll tell you why. Because where the seeds have been caught in the web is where the web is complete. The rest of the web isn't. all the spokes and radials are there, but it's not, or never got a chance to finish going around. There's a couple of things that could have happened to it, and with the web being intact, I wouldn't say bird or bat. The culprit for me would be wasp or hornet, because wasps and hornet are extremely adept at plucking a spider straight off its web. It's quite remarkable. Even seen wasps remove prey that the spider's secured and webbed up for later out of a web. Very tenacious things, wasps and hornets. And I think that's the reason why this web is incomplete. That whoever was in the process of building it isn't of this mortal coil. Well, that's facing up towards the centre tree. We're now north of the centre tree. We'll just walk down through sections C3 and C2 of the country park and just cut over the fence again. I'm heading down towards Budby. I'm just going to have a quick look for purple emperor larvae. Might take some finding. Just looking for purple emperor larvae. Not found one so far. This tree's incredibly brittle now to what it was. Even these side shoots are coming off dead easy. But there are some feeding signs here, look, of a resident, but it's not the resident we're looking for. If I turn that round, and here we've got a near full grown caterpillar of poplar hawk moth. Still got a bit of growing to do, and this is doing what poplar hawk moth larvae always do, and they'll always rest at the base of the midrib of the leaf, unlike some hawk moth larvae, notably privet hawk moth and eyed hawk moth, where they'll rest usually on the stem, but will curl up in the sphinx position. So that's quite a nice thing to find, but not the species we're after. We'll try another one. Well, I'm very much in the middle of nowhere really, just cutting across between paths. I did work my way around to Thinghow, and I'm now heading back up towards the centre tree, but I'm just cutting through an old grass single track path and found this, which looks extremely like a pug larva to me, pugs being a geometrid moth. And what we'll do, we'll take some photographs and take it home to see what it turns out to be, if just in case I can't identify its species from photographs. And it's on a small goat sallow that's tucked in the middle of nowhere. But, we'll have a look in the road and see what it is. And that's the way we're heading. Trust me, there is a path here. I say it is a grass path and rarely used. Still, if I'm not back for D, give us a ring. Now, I'm walking slowly back up towards the centre tree. Not far off now, just at the top of the path up there. And thankfully, it's downhill. I can do downhill. It's been nice having a wander around. So, That's quite a nice picture, that does actually. We'll go up to the top of the centre tree, and then it's down the grass strip of sections A, B, C and D of the old glowworm area. Oh, when I usually stand here and do some kind of commentary, it's usually pitch black. And you're lucky whether you can make out a silhouette of a tree. But started to walk down, and that's looking up to the centre tree. And they should be starting the work fairly soon. Which is going to change it back to how it was, to a degree at least. And this just used to be a grass strip with bits of heather in it on the left hand side. And there was also heather and grass on the right hand side of this path as you look at it. And it was like that all the way up and down. And it's been lost after a number of years of neglect. So let's hope it does change. Well, I'm about 100 or so yards from the car. I've gone full circle. Not a lot to find, unfortunately, but it's the time of year, you know. But it's still nice to get out and about, and on a day like this. Beautiful. Despite the wind blowing through the trees, it's still warm. So until the next time.